Hello, everybody. This is Carol Maletta. Welcome to the Parenting 411 podcast, where we share information parents need from sources they can trust. Let's say you have a kindergartner. If you wanted to increase the odds of them being successful in life, where do you think you should place the most emphasis at that point? Many parents would say academic skills, of course. As they say, our children have one job: do well in school. And there's no denying that education can unlock a whole lot of doors. But did you know that studies have shown that social skills that a child exhibits at the age of 5 can best predict future success? In a longitudinal study presented in the American Journal of Public Health, researchers interviewed kindergarten teachers about each one of their students. They looked at how well they could share, listen to each other, resolve minor conflicts, show empathy, and those kinds of things. The researchers used the data provided by the teachers to rate each child's emotional and social competence, adjusting for factors like developmental or social influences, like gender, family circumstances, and academic capabilities. Then, almost 20 years later, the researchers reconnected with the former kindergarten students to gather information about their lives as adults. And what do you think they found? The children who scored highest on the social emotional aptitude in kindergarten were the most successful young adults. So how can parents help their children develop these vital social emotional skills? I brought in an expert who can help with that. Ashley Finley is a mental health advocate, author, and entrepreneur. She has written an insightful book for children entitled Jade's Secret Ingredients, a recipe for managing feelings. As a mother and educator, she brings a valuable perspective to the topic of helping children manage their emotions. So welcome, Ashley Finley.
Thank you so much for having me, Carol.
Yes, I am pleased to have you. This is such an important topic because really, if you can manage your emotions and just have control of yourself in a lot of circumstances, it makes a lot of difference, not only for our little kids, but as adults. So I was really eager to talk about this so that parents can understand how they can set their children off on the right foot. So let's talk about how your work and your life experiences kind of set you up to start writing these insightful books for children.
Yes, absolutely. So, Jade's Secret Ingredients, a recipe for managing feelings, is my first publication. And for me, I have been on my own mental health journey over the past 30 some odd years. I'm not going to tell y'all my exact age, but 30 some odd, so we'll call it. I have been trained professionally as a clinical social worker. That's where I hold my master's degree. So I did mental health therapy with children. And I also taught for a while, and I'm a mother as well. And for me, my goal and my purpose is to definitely share all the things that I have learned in my own journey with our young people so that they're able to do even greater things and have an even higher quality of life at a young age. So I have done everything from, like I said, working with kids in the school setting to doing mental health therapy with them. And what I have found is that there are very, very sometimes small things that we can do and that we can instill within our children to help them manage those emotions, like you were talking about. And it vastly changes their quality of life when you just know sometimes small little tidbits of things. And so that's what I've done with Jade's Secret Ingredients. There are 9 secret ingredients in the book, which are strategies for managing those emotions that we all face. So it is written for children. It is a picture book. However, readers of all ages and caregivers have had the opportunity to learn those concepts and implement them as well.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. You talked about improving their quality of life. I can remember, I have twin sons who are now young adults, but I can remember when one of my sons was in the midst of a tantrum. And I just remember him like stopping for a minute and like trying to catch his breath, like even he didn't want to be doing that in that moment. Like I think even he wished he could be better in that moment. A lot of times parents will look at children and say, "Oh, they're just pushing my buttons. He knows that I don't like that or whatever." And they know better than this. But sometimes they really, really don't. And those tantrums are an opportunity for us to help them. Like they're asking for help. They don't know how to articulate it, but they're actually asking for help. And so it sounds like with Jade's Secret Ingredients, you want to help children to manage those emotions and.
Absolutely, absolutely. I would say even with the tantrum scenario, I have a 4-year-old son and a 2-year-old son. So
Mhm.
pray for me. So we're doing our best, absolutely. But I will say that what I've learned is that many times children, we have to remember. I have a 4-year-old. That means he has been on Earth for 4 years. That means he has 4 years worth of
Just
information,
got here.
and I have over 30 years. So I can't expect him to respond to situations in the same way that I have responded. I would respond, or I would hope to respond to situations. And so I have to keep that in mind. And a lot of times, parents have a certain mindset of, hey, this child is doing this to me. They're trying to attack. But we have to remember sometimes for kids, they're just trying to communicate in a way that they think you will get it. They are
Mhm.
trying to communicate using the limited tools that they have with the limited brain capacity, because again, their brain has only been growing for 4 years or 2 years or however many years. And so they use the tools that they have and they're trying to communicate with us. That's what they are always doing. Now, sometimes the way they choose to communicate may not be exactly what we would have preferred for them to do, but that's where we come in, and that's why we are parents and caregivers and teachers of them, to help them manage, give them the tools, give them an opportunity to practice using the tools, give them an opportunity to make mistakes with the tools, because those are the same things that we do every day. And that's, we would want grace as we learn and we grow. And so that's the same mindset that I try to have with my children and that I try to share with other parents when dealing with kids who are maybe exhibiting behaviors that they feel like are a little bit challenging for them to deal with.
And I love where you talked about grace, like showing them some grace, because we give our friends grace all the time. We don't get angry at them about the mistakes they may make, like showing up late for lunch. We planned to have lunch together or whatever, or they spill something. We give them grace. So we ought to give our children grace for sure. They are more than deserving. And another thing about emotion coaching too, and maybe you'll get into this as well, because we talked about obviously the tantrums, but there's a wide range of emotions that they can feel. They might be overly excited. I mean, there might be there's good, big, good emotions as well. And then there're just other things too, where they might be nervous or insecure about something. And so helping them, giving them the vocabulary and strategies for even conveying those feelings is also helpful. Now, another thing that I've been thinking about is that, a lot of people talk about kids today. They're so outspoken and they're just so emotional. That's what we hear a lot about. And they, some of them are, more than when I was a child, because, it was all about self-control and there's nothing to cry about and all of that. Those are the kinds of things that I remember hearing from adults when I was younger. Do you believe that children are more outspoken and just more emotional?
That's an excellent question. And I hear that from time to time from adults. But for me, I have a mindset of children are meant to be an improvement on the design, that they're not created to be mini me's of us. And what that means to me is my children will have, or my goal is for my children to have all of the information that I have, and that they're going to go even further than I have gone in life. And so when you think about it that way, yes, of course, we would expect them to be able to do more, to express more, to communicate differently than we did, because after we have lived our life, we learned along the way, and the goal is to give them what we have so that they can take it and go even further and continue to progress and continue to do greater works. And so I would say absolutely they're more vocal. Absolutely they are more aware. The internet came out when I was more high schoolish and stuff, and now they have the whole world in their back pockets. So they have more access to more information and they're more aware. I would even dare to say that many of us and the generations before us have always felt the feelings, right? Hence the word feelings, we feel them. But then what we did with them may not have been the most productive. We may have been surviving, but now our children are moving more, hopefully, into a thriving area where you can say, instead of just keeping my head down and not saying anything, I know how to assertively set my boundaries and voice those things and say, hey, when you said that to me, that didn't make me feel great. That really hurt my feelings. I would prefer if you would speak to me in this manner. Whereas for us, we may have been operating out of a different mindset, maybe fear, what have you. Maybe, again, we're trying to survive. So our parents taught us to do what they did, which was do what, it takes to survive. But as we continue to progress and grow, it is expected that the next generation will do things differently. And that's for me, that's what I would hope for them.
I like that. I like that a lot. I think when people talk about the differences with children today versus previous generations, a lot of times I do think about what they're seeing in the media and all of that. They just have this wealth of information that we didn't have. Like I always talk about how, I grew up in Washington, D.C. If it wasn't on TV, I didn't really know what they were doing in Cleveland, Ohio. I didn't know what they had. So, but now they know what people are doing all over the world just through a click of the button on their phone or on their laptop. And so they're taking that in. But what I really loved about what you said is that it's what we're bringing to parenting that changes a little bit, changes the dynamic. And that is a very good thing. Like you said, we're supposed to be evolving and progressing. So I like that a lot. We'll be right back after this. You love your kids. You do your very best for them. But sometimes it feels like it's just not enough. And you're so sure you're the only one who feels this way. The truth is, you're not alone. It is also true that there are some things you're doing quite right. And there's a community who would love to exchange ideas with you. I'm Carol Maletta, creator of the Parenting 411, a portal for parents where I share information parents need through webinars and masterclasses. And not only that, the parents there support each other on this amazing journey in the Parenting 411 community group on Facebook. I can't wait to meet you in the community. And we're back with the Parenting 411.
And I think also that we even see it. Sometimes things happen and we don't always realize. We see it when we have multiple children, right? My kids, they're just 2 years apart, but I parent differently now than I did when my oldest son was born. So there's always a progression. There's always a change because there's some things that I thought were so important. Oh, I'm never going to let him do this. I'm never going to let him do that. Now with my little one, I'm like, oh, he's fine. Right. Yes. Because you learn and you grow and you progress and you make mistakes and you change your mind. That's what's amazing about us as people. Like you're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to do something different. They're allowed to be different than you. I have no no pressure for my kids to be just like them, like me. I want them to be themselves. I still want them to have, high quality of life, and I want to support them, and I still have morals and different things like that. But they are their own people, and that's exactly what I want to work to raise them to be.
Absolutely. I tell you, when my children were younger, they're twins, but they have very different temperaments. And one just had this zest for life, just ran headfirst into everything, wanted to push every button, never saw a puddle he didn't have to jump in. And, I just loved that because I wasn't that type of child. But what I did see as my job was to channel that energy, and try give him circumstances and situations where he could do those things, and also teach him that there will be some times when you can't do that. And then, my other son, very observant, that's a little bit more like my temperament, but he was even more attuned. He can really read a room really well, and you can't talk him out of it either. And that was even as a baby. So that was kind of what I wanted to try to do. I mean, that didn't mean that it didn't take a lot of energy to try to parent them, but I really was trying to find ways that I was like, this is a problem for me right now. This is difficult. Maybe I should say it that way, but these qualities that they have can really serve them well. And how can I figure that out? And that was kind of funny. They were toddlers really when I came to that. I hadn't really jumped into parent education yet, but that was something that I thought about, that like, these kids have qualities that I don't have. I really admire them. I've got to show them how they can use them, and
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. I think that, what you said is true. It is challenging. I feel like being
Mhm.
a mom is the hands down hardest thing I have ever done in my entire life. Degrees and teaching, that's nothing. Trying to bring up and support two individuals who are their own people with, like you say, some similarities to me, but they're entirely their own selves too, trying to guide and not, shut down certain behaviors, but try to help them know how to use them. And it's challenging. It is challenging being a parent, but it is also my greatest joy. But it still doesn't take away from the challenge, though. And so for me, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to dive into writing these children's books, to help parents and to help give those concepts, because a lot of times you're trying to teach them, you're trying to tell them, you're trying to show them, but sometimes they just need a fun little happy go loving book to kind of read through and be like, but really embedded within that book are really, really important concepts that are meant to be helpful to them and to their caregivers as they grow along the lifespan. And so that's definitely what I wanted to do with my books, and that's what I had in mind when I was writing them as well.
Now, what are you hearing from little ones, including your two, about the book? What kinds of things stand out to them, or what kinds of things do they repeat or refer to from the book?
So one of my favorite things about Jade's Secret Ingredients, other than, of course, the words, because I wrote them, I'm a little biased, um, it are the illustrations. So one thing about picture books that I always hold true and believe is that children, even those who are not able to read yet, should be able to look at your pictures and know exactly what's happening in your book. So that's one of the things, and that's some of the feedback that I often get back from kids, is that they love the pictures. They can tell me whether they can read or they're not reading just yet. They can tell me exactly what's happening. Oh, she's taking deep breaths. Oh, she's counting. Oh, she looks a little mad. Oh, she's sad. They can tell what's happening from the images, as well as, those who can read from the words as well. But that's one of the main things that I get back from my books, is that they really, really love the illustrations. And I'm a big visual person. And so, I was very, very purposeful in not only what my characters look like and what they're doing, but in what's being conveyed. So you see that she is upset, and she's walking away from the situation to take a break. So this is showing you something you can do when you get upset. This is how this can be used as a resource for your parents, to help you, in those situations. Or you may even remember it yourself, because I know for me, there are images of things that I read when I was a kid that are still in my mind. And so that is the purpose and the goal with this book, is that the kiddos are able to hold on to these concepts far after they turn the last page.
I like that. Let's talk about the downside of children not having those tools that they need to manage their emotions. I talked in the beginning about how it can really shape the trajectory of their lives. That's kind of big picture, but day to day, what's the downside of children not being able to get a hold of themselves?
Yes, I think, unfortunately, we see it, right? We see it in the news. We see it, in our schools, when you get an email from the school district about safety, about different things where people are going through different emotions, whether it be children or adults, and they're not able to manage what is happening. So, in your home, it may be your child's inability to do day to day functions because they struggle with, maybe their disappointment of what's happening, or they're so excited that they can't quite do what they would like to do because they just got all the jitters that they need help kind of managing and channeling and figuring out how to work through that. So I think there are many things that we see, like I said, on a national scale and an international scale. We see, unfortunately, children suffering with depression and anxiety. You could see, and again, one thing that I try to remember is that all adults were children at some point too. They chronologically grew in age, but sometimes our minds don't necessarily progress. So they are still those little kids who can't manage when they get angry and don't realize that, hey, you can take a break. You can have gratitude for the situation, even though it didn't go perfect. You don't have to retaliate or become violent or do these things. And so I think that's what we tend to see. All you have to do is turn on the news or look at your newspaper or open your internet browser that has the headlines. Like, we see a lot of things going on. Interact with children at the school, teachers at the school. You'll find out about things that aren't going great sometimes. And if you look at the root, a lot of times it's because we aren't able to manage our feelings. And that is why this topic is super, super important to me, because if we can just take a moment when we're in our sadness, in our anger, and whatever it is, to feel the feeling and then move forward into something more productive, then we can see a lot of changes that we would like to see in different environments today.
We'll be right back after this. As the saying goes, mother's work is never done, except when it really is. I'm talking about my new book, Mother's Work, Pearls of Wisdom and Gems from My Journey. I share my transformation from an outmanned, overwhelmed mom of twin boys to a parenting strategist and consultant, and being honored as DC Mother of the Year by American Mothers Incorporated. In Mother's Work, I tell you about the 7 guideposts that kept me anchored as I weathered the peaks and valleys of motherhood. Grab your copy at carolmaletta.com/motherswork. And we're back with the Parenting 411. Now, I know that you share 9 strategies in Jade's Secret Ingredients, but I want you to tell us about 4, because I think that all 9 are valuable, and I hope our listeners are going to run and grab this book and for the holiday season. But let's give them just a taste of 3 or 4 that are related to the most common challenges that you've seen with children that you've worked with over the years.
That's a good question. Okay, so if I had to choose, I would probably say the first one I would choose is actually the first ingredient in the book, and that is very on purpose, very purposeful with that. It is stay in the moment, which borrows from the concept of mindfulness. So staying in the moment is so, so, so important. It is a very foundational level thing that you can do to combat challenges. And you can look at today and see that our children and adults are suffering with depression, which is being stuck, your mind kind of being stuck in the past, or anxiety, which is your mind thinking too far in the future and creating these um, kind of negative scenarios. But if we can really work to stay in the present, that would definitely combat some of those challenges. And so, staying in the moment, I would say, is the first one that I
Mhm.
would suggest with your working on with your children, whether it's um, just being in the moment in terms of what you're doing right now, trying not to multitask and do too many things at one time, just really focusing on whatever's ahead of you in terms of right in front of you, rather.
Mhm.
The second one, I would say take breaks. That's a good one. Taking a break. So taking breaks is so, so important, and relaxation, which I'll do as a third one. Taking breaks and relaxation, and the root of both of those is a self awareness. So you have to pay attention to yourself to know when it's time for a break. I think in our society, many times we are pressured to keep going, keep pushing, don't give up, do this, push, 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 push. But we also need to remember that when we start to feel tense in our body, when our mind just is having trouble focusing, it's trying to signal us that we need to take a break. And whether that's take a break and do something fun, take a break and go for a walk, or if we need to do some relaxation strategies, we really need to work on tuning into ourselves. And I think that if our children are taught that, it would vastly, vastly decrease some of the things that we're seeing with them as a result of burnout, anger, just acting out of your emotions, just taking a break, realizing that, hey, I'm feeling this way. My stomach is in knots. My brain is feeling foggy. I'm going to go over here and play a little game for a few minutes. Then I'm going to come back and see if I can continue with the task at hand.
Okay. And you said the third one was relaxing.
Yes. Yes. So that's a little bit piggyback off of taking a break as well. Because taking a break, you can do fun things and all that. And then relaxation is super important. Just giving your mind that reset,
Mhm.
taking deep breaths, which is what Jade does in the book.
Mhm.
When she does her relaxation with her grandmother, which is when she is trying to bake a pie, but the pie crust is just not working. Okay. So she is super frustrated, and her and Granny decided to take a break and do some deep breathing and some counting to kind of re-regulate them or re-regulate Jade so that she's able to get back into her task and do what she would like to do.
Okay. Okay. Now, what are three tips that you think parents could use, particularly those parents of children that have really strong temperaments, um, that could just be hard to settle down? What are three quick tips that they could do? As soon as they listen to this, they could try it today.
I would say the first thing is important is definitely to let kids feel those feelings. I think sometimes as parents, we have an agenda. We have things we want to do. We want to move, move, move. But sometimes we need to take a moment and let them feel, let them be upset. It's okay. You know, they're disappointed that they thought they were going to the mall and you're stopping to get gas and now they're upset. You know, let them feel that. Let them have that moment to be whatever that feeling is. And then work to, I would say the second thing would be work to help them name it. You know, you can call out what you see physically. I see you have tears in your eyes. It looks like you may be feeling sad. You know, help them understand what's happening with themselves. And then for the third thing, I would say lead by example. So this is a kind of a precursor to the child feeling the emotions, which would be when you feel that emotion, how do you normally react? So if you have
Mhm.
shown them how to react, how you react, positive, productive ways to manage the emotion, to feel it, and to progress. Now, you know, when you say, hey, I see you feeling sad, would you like to take some deep breaths like mommy does? You know, I think that is super important. Our kids learn so much by watching us more than what we say.
Yes.
sometimes. And so, I think that that is so important. And if you haven't always been or you're still learning to manage your emotions, invite them in the journey. Like there's
Mhm.
nothing when I read things as a mom, as an adult, when I'm reading through people's stories, when I follow people on social media, I love people who are real and who don't just make it look beautiful all the time. That say, hey, it's a struggle. And I'm like, well, I can relate to that.
Mhm.
So, be real with them. If you're going on that journey and you're learning those things, let them learn with you. Apologize if you make a mistake. Oh, mommy was angry and mommy was angry and she spoke to you in a very unkind way. Mommy needed to take a break. Would you like to take a break with mommy now? Or mommy's going to take a break now. I'm going to take some deep breaths. That's what
Mhm.
I needed to do. I apologize for talking to you like that. And let them be a part. I think there's historically has been some pushback on don't apologize to your kid. You're the parent, you're the boss, you're the this, you're the that. But then we see how when we became parents and people became parents that they didn't know how to deal with because different things because their caregivers didn't have the tools or chose not to teach them what to do. And so I think that is the most if I had to pick one that was the most important, I would say that one, definitely leading by example so that they can see, hey, when mom gets angry about something, I see her feel the anger. Ugh, that really gets on my nerves. But
Mhm.
then she goes over there and she takes a break and she does something that she likes to do and she comes back or whatever positive coping strategy that mom has or dad has or whoever.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said so much there that I like. I mean, just going back to apologizing because that's so respectful. You're just showing respect for them. It doesn't take away the fact that you're the parent and that you're a leader, but leaders aren't perfect. And to actually apologize to your child, they know that they're the little ones with the least power, but for you to do that to them makes them feel valued. And so I think that especially if they deserve, I mean, if you were wrong, they deserve it. You would apologize to anyone else. You apologize to strangers. So why
Absolutely.
can't you apologize to your child? So um I definitely love that. And they are always watching. That's just what they're trying to connect the dots. And just some of the misbehavior we see is that they kind of link cause and effect to things that doesn't exactly work that way. And that's the challenge, but that's why we're here. We're here to be their guides on the journey and help them to make the connections that they're supposed to make and kind of unlink those things that they think are connected. And so now, what tips would you offer parents of children that are on the other end of the continuum where they don't express their emotions, they're uncomfortable, so they don't share? What would you recommend there?
I would say for the most part a very similar thing, which is continue to lead by example. But to add with that, I would say sometimes children are pressured to express things verbally exclusively, and
Mhm.
sometimes they don't have the words. So I would say really diversify the way that they're able to express. If they want to draw a picture to show you how they're feeling, if they want to sing a song, if they want to point to a picture, maybe you have a picture, pictures of different faces with different emotions, angry, happy, sad, and they can
Mhm.
point, how are you feeling today? And let them point. You know, you really have to kind of be creative and
Mhm.
really work to get to know your kid. You know, my my son, he's very, very open and very energetic and very happy. And he's just like mom in that he's super visual. So I learned that I can ask him how you feel, and he may not know how to respond. But if I show him a couple of those faces, oh, quickly, he can show me this one here, this one here, this is how. And then we can go from there. So I think giving them multiple ways to express it to you would really um, be helpful for them. And like I said, as well as continue to lead by example and name them as you can. And and just kind of go from there and see which one they prefer. Almost like people talk about love languages, kind of
Yes.
communication language, if you will. And so, and just kind of really work on talking to them through the whatever mode or method feels best for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I have enjoyed this. What's next for you with Jade Secret Ingredients or any other project that you have coming up?
Yes. So I actually have two books, which are Jade's Secret Ingredients, A Recipe for Managing Feelings. And then my second book is No Limits, Stories Celebrating the Unconditional Love of a Father. That one's all about building positive self esteem and self love with your children. Right now, I am really working hard to get my books into the hands of our amazing kiddos who need it. So I'm partnering with organizations and different community partners to really get the books out. They're also available at wherever you buy your books from: Barnes and Noble, Target, Walmart, Amazon, all the places. And so I'm just really working hard to expand my reach so that kids are able to really get these concepts, that they can practice them and embed them and have greater qualities of life at young ages.
Wonderful, wonderful. And how can listeners follow you and learn more about what you have to offer?
Yeah, so you can follow me on social media. It's at Ashley Finley Writes, like you write something down. Or you can visit my website, which is my publishing company website, jjcarsonpress.com.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for, sharing this valuable information and to our listeners. I'm glad that you tuned in. As always, follow me at the Parenting 411 on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And remember that it is never too late to be the parent that you want to be.